Breaking news reaching us, and we can tell you that West Ham are in discussions this morning over a move for Manchester City midfielder Kalvin Phillips. Talks are centred on what the conditions of a potential deal might be. We've been reporting throughout this window here on Sky Sports News that West Ham had been one of 6 clubs interested in the player. They include Crystal Palace and Newcastle, who had also made contact with City about a deal this month. In terms of European interest, Atletico Madrid, Barcelona also understood to be interested. But what we're hearing this morning, West Ham are now in talks with Manchester City over a move for Kalvin Phillips. He's been someone that we've been talking about throughout this transfer window. It seems like West Ham now front of the queue. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think it'd be a brilliant signing. I think it'd be a good move for him as well, going to a great club in West Ham who are going really, really well in the league this season, recruited well with the Declan Rice money in the summer, and I think there's obviously some funds left over to get Kalvin Phillips in on loan as well. I think he probably slots in next to Alvarez quite nicely in that midfield. He's having a good season. He's had a good first half of the season, and they've got James Ward-Prowse who perhaps plays a little bit in front as well. Souček's actually having a really good season, but West Ham in multiple competitions, we know what that Thursday-Sunday load's like. To have an extra option there in that midfield, I think that would really help them. It feels a very David Moyes signing, doesn't it? The Phillips and Alcaraz midfield as a double pivot feels very David Moyes. And a few years ago, when Souček was at his top form and they had Rice and Phillips, I felt like they gave the Rice and Souček, they gave the attackers a licence to go forward, knowing that they were protected, but they also gave the defence that consistency that they knew that they had that solid platform in front of them as well. This feels like West Ham going back to that, and yeah, I think it would be a good signing all round, good move all round for everyone.
For Kalvin Phillips, I mean, there's lots of clubs interested in him. Do you think he would like to go to somewhere where he's going to be playing minutes, or where he might be in with a shout of winning more trophies on a similar level to Manchester City? And when you look at the list of clubs that are interested in, maybe, you know, Juventus and Atletico Madrid might fit into that category.
I think if you look at Kalvin Phillips since he's gone from Leeds to Manchester City and what he's won: Premier League, FA Cup, Champions League, Club World Cup, Super Cup. He's also got the Championship at Leeds, so he's decorated, but he won't feel like he's part of it. Obviously, with the Leeds promotion for sure, but in terms of what he's won at Manchester City, he won't feel part of it. And for a player to have those type of honours and feel like a bit part, that's going to be a sore feeling. So absolutely, he has to go to where he's going to play. He's almost done it the other way around. You know, if you're a player and you retire and you want to sort of put those medals down on your table and say, what did you achieve in your career? But the story that for Kalvin Phillips isn't quite the one that matches up with someone who's been an integral part of winning such prestigious honours. He has to go where he's going to play. I mean, I was saying yesterday about maybe the Crystal Palace situation where, you know, Roy Hodgson put their name into the hat of somewhere where he could get minutes, and that's exactly what he can get at West Ham. I think the best version of Kalvin Phillips offers more than Souček. I think Souček does have his attributes. You know, he's good in the air and can get goals from midfield. But essentially, if it was Alvarez and Kalvin Phillips week in, week out, with Ward-Prowse just ahead of that, and Paquetá on the left and Kudus on the right and Bowen up front, mouth-watering for West Ham fans. So I think he really needs to go where he's going to play. And if this move is to materialise into a loan deal or a permanent, whatever it's going to look like, I think it definitely would be a good move for him.
Do we underestimate sometimes? I mean, it's easier. Kalvin Phillips is at an elite football club, so do we underestimate sometimes how hard it is for players to leave those environments, even when they're not necessarily playing lots of minutes? It's an easier sell, for instance, for a younger player to say, step away from the elite environment for the moment because you can get back there. But when it's a player at the stage of the career at Kalvin Phillips who's tasted Manchester City, do we underestimate sometimes how hard it is for players to move away from that atmosphere and move to another club?
I think so, especially when you consider what a pull it must have been to move to Man City in the first place, and it would have taken a big move like that to move him away from Leeds. I mean, you can only see the Leeds documentary. He speaks about how much the club means to him, how much the club means to his family, to then move away to Man City. And yeah, Flex mentioned the CV he's now got, which is incredible, but he'll feel he's not contributed towards it. Euro's obviously on his mind as well. Gareth Southgate has been very loyal to him, despite the fact he's had limited minutes this season. But this will also feel, if he does move on loan in this window, because of Pep Guardiola's comments in December, and Pep Guardiola almost apologised for him because it suggested that he wasn't the right fit in the first place. The way that Guardiola spoke about things, he sort of said, it's not you, it's me, in terms of why he can't see in his head Kalvin Phillips being a big part of that squad. So this feels like the beginning of the end for Kalvin Phillips, if he is to move on, because this is incredible. To come in for the fee he did in that summer, he's made 4 Premier League appearances this season, 2 Premier League starts in his whole time at Man City, and both of those came in May after Man City had already won the title. He's not played in the last 9 matches in the Premier League, and I think Manchester City are in a position now, they do tend to recruit brilliantly, they also sell really well. I think at the moment they're looking at trying to get some money back for Kalvin Phillips in the short term, because they know no club is in a situation where they can fork out the money that Man City would want for him, a current England international, still a top player, and it is those wages as well. And I think Crystal Palace and Newcastle, I think, would make more sense because of the issues they've got at the moment in their midfield. But perhaps West Ham are the only club that can stump up a huge amount of that wage, which is £135,000 a week. And Man City, ideally, want all those wages to be paid by the club he moves to on loan, with that loan fee as well. West Ham currently 6th in the table, went out to Bristol City in the FA Cup. A number of issues in forward areas. They probably would rather sign a striker or a winger at the moment. But when an option like Kalvin Phillips comes up right now, I think it shows how much ambition West Ham for this to be a successful season in the Europa League and in the Premier League, because it felt like with the injuries they're suffering at the moment that perhaps they may look to slide down the table with the issues they have. But by signing a player like Kalvin Phillips, what a statement of intent that is at this point in this month. Yeah.